We interrupt your regularly scheduled broadcast for the following excerpt readings. How do you do, buckaroos? Soseztheleadr talking. If you like Western type heroes and movies and TV shows, you're in for a real treat, because this excerpt reading is from my quest for the final 4 series in the Fellowship of Light Dragon Warriors sub-series. This is The Good, the Bad, and the Roxy. In case you didn't know, it's the title was based on a Western movie, The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, but it doesn't seem to end that way. Let's read. I decided to start with this scene. This is where Roxy Norrington is flying through the interdimensional portal that malfunctioned in Alucard Industries. If you're wondering what happened, I suggest you read Once and Future Galatea to see what happened to make the portal malfunction. Let's read. Through the time tunnel created by the Alucard Industries interdimensional portal, Roxy Norrington fell, screaming as she did so, and wondering when this crazy ride would end until she grunted in pain as she landed on her behind and groaned, "Ow, that hurts!" She struggled to her feet and looked around, only to see an expanse of barren land with tumbleweeds rolling through the wind. "Just my luck to land in the Badlands," she muttered. She squinted into the distance to discover a town and decided, well, what can't go back must go forward, I guess. And with that, she took one step forward and walked toward the town in the distance. She had only gone a couple of feet when she discovered an odd shadow next to her and realized, uh-oh, and she was right to be wary, as the other shadow began moving, even though there was no other figure walking alongside it. Then the shadow began to take another form, a black figure with red eyes and tentacles for hands. Roxy set herself in a fighting stance as the black figure suddenly split into 4. That's when she realized, shadow rates! And they just keep getting uglier and uglier. On that note, the shadow rays suddenly shot their tentacles at her, and she leaped into the air while whipping out her quake cannon. She fired 4 shots, which hit the 4 wraiths in their chests. But later, Roxy received the shock of her life, as those 4 wraiths had split themselves into 8, causing her to exclaim, "What in the world?" But she had no time to react, as the 8 wraiths attacked her with their tentacles, which she did her best to dodge and then fired, her blast severing the tentacles from their bodies. Then she grabbed one tentacle and used it like a whip, cracking it against the chest of one wraith and slamming it into another. And then something unusual happened. The 2 wraiths began crackling with electricity and then disappeared from view. That's when it hit her. So they can only destroy themselves, she realized, just as 2 more leaped her way. Roxy fired her quake cannon and sent them flying backward. Those 2 wraiths came in contact with 2 more wraiths and crackled with electricity, disappearing from view a moment later. With that, Roxy landed in the center, where one shadow wraith charged her from the left, and while the last charged her from the right. At the last moment, Roxy leaped away, causing the 2 wraiths to collide and disintegrate on impact. That's the last of them, she realized as her quake cannon vanished. Something tells me there are more on their way. I'd better get going. With that, she started for the town in the distance when she was caught off guard by the sound of clapping behind her. She whirled around, quake hammer in hand, as she spotted a man in odd clothes, a cowboy hat and suit, leather leggings, and pointed boots. A cowpuncher? Roxy realized. Then she sighed. Looks like that time vortex put me in the past. and from the looks of things, I got put in the Old West. But why? Welcome, little filly, said the cowboy. That was a mighty fine battling. And you are, Roxy prompted. How's about telling me who you are first, little lady? And the cowboy countered. Right, Roxy said slowly. How about not? Well, how's about a tribute for our new ruler? The cowboy prompted. You may not know it, but you're in Elsa Pollock's territory. Tribute for Elsa Pollock? Roxy repeated. You want money or something? You could say that, the cowboy told her as he tickled her under the chin. Unless, of course, there's something else you're willing to get. He had broken off when Roxy seized him by the wrist and flipped him onto his back. He landed with a pained grunt. How about you mind your own business and leave me to mine? Roxy shot back. The cowboy struggled back to his feet and withdrew a revolver. He pulled the trigger and opened fire on Roxy, who shielded herself with her quake hammer. The bullets bounced off the hammer as she remarked, Those are some of the biggest, slowest bullets I've ever seen. As he pulled the trigger again, all it did was make the gun click. He was out of ammunition. All he could do was sheath his gun and run. However, Roxy wound up and slammed the ground hard with her quake hammer, sending a tremor that caused the cowboy to lose his footing and fall to the ground on his stomach. Tried to warn you, Roxy muttered as she flew toward the cowboy and picked him up, flying him back toward a tree where a brown horse was tethered. Ah, so that's how you got here, Roxy realized as she laid the cowboy against a tree and looked in the horse's supply bag for some rope. She had finally found a wrapped cord of heavy rope, which she unwound and wrapped around the cowboy, binding him to the tree. You don't mind if I borrow your duds, do you? Roxy asked no one in particular. And then she closed her eyes, glowing a hot white for a moment, and then finding herself dressed in the same clothes as the cowboy, minus the hat. Then she removed the cowboy's hat and put it on her own head as she finished with, Didn't think so. As Roxy untied the horse and climbed onto its back, she said, Wherever you came from, I'm sure your friends will be looking for you. Then she sing-songed, Ciao! With that, she gave the horse a squeeze and took off for the town in the distance. So as you can see, if you're following along with me, Roxy, thanks to the interdimensional portal, got time warped, and she got time warped into the past of the Old West. Let's continue. This scene takes place in one of the Mount Melania village, the Mount Melania village of the past. Roxy, as I've just found out, she's stuck in Mount Melania village in the Old West period, and this takes place in one of the landmarks, the Last Chance Saloon. The sound of piano music filled her ears as Roxy stepped through the double doors of the Last Chance Saloon. She took in her new surroundings as she eyed the scene before her. Some of the cowboys and cowgirls were sitting at the bartender's counter enjoying drinks. Others were sitting at tables waiting for food. But the main scene that caught her eye was a card game being played by two women. One of them looked calm as she stared at her hand, while the other woman looked as if she were attempting to analyze her opponent's expression, trying to determine a bluff. What do you have in your hand? Asked the second woman, who wore a black hat. As Roxy sat down in a lone chair next to the table holding the card game, she heard the first woman tell her opponent, It'll cost another 25,000 gold to find out. Upon hearing such a wager, Roxy wondered, what is she holding? Meanwhile, at the card game table, The woman in the black hat pushed forward a neatly piled set of gold coins and declared, "Call." And then she laid her cards on the table and told her, "4 kings and an ace." The first woman cast a lopsided grin at the hand presented to her and laid her own cards on the table, saying, "Well, that's an interesting hand, considering I have 4 aces and a king." "Yeah?" said the second woman, drawing her gun and aiming it at the first woman's head. "Well, I've got the gun." The first woman raised her hands in surrender, only to reveal a concealed gun in the sleeve of her shirt. She aimed it back toward the other woman and said, "A lot of that going around." Roxy raised her eyebrows in alarm, and as she stood up, prepared to come between the brawl if she had to. "Looks like a waste of a good pot," the woman on the right told the one in the black hat. "How about we split it and both walk away?" But at that point, Roxy saw the woman on the right was suddenly surrounded by 2 squid wraiths, one on her left and one on her right. On that note, the woman wearing the black hat declared as she fingered an odd ring around her finger, "How about I keep it all?" With that, the woman on the right laid her gun on the table and told her opponent, "Seems fair with these odds." Just then, the squid wraiths wrapped their tentacles around the woman's arms as she protested, "Wait a minute! Don't I even get a trial?" "Sure," said the woman in black hat with a sneer. "You're guilty. My town, my rules." "That must be Elsa Pollock," Roxy reasoned to herself as she averted her gaze, not wishing to draw any attention to herself. "Hey, how about a new game? Pinochle rules," Elsa's opponent suggested. "How about a brand new hand? Double or nothing?" "How about not?" Elsa Pollock declared, and with a snap of her fingers, she told the squid wraiths, "Take her to the prison." And with that, the squid wraiths disappeared with the woman in the white hat, who screamed as they all went through the floor, her screams lost within the shadows. So Elsa Pollock has somehow gotten control of shadow wraiths, Roxy realized, as Elsa Pollock twirled her gun and sheathed it. I need to know what relic she got her hands on. But first, I need to get that woman out of jail. So, as you can see, Roxy just witnessed a relic of darkness work its magic as squid wraiths were revealed to have overrun Mount Melania Village in the Old West period. Let's continue. This scene introduces another new character in this story, and her name is Louise, and we don't know it at this point, but she's revealed to be Princess Luan's great-grandmother. Let's read about it. Louise watched with a smile as Roxy slept soundly on the bed mostly made of hay and feathers. Then she closed the door to the empty barn and returned to the shack that was her horse feed shop, where the 12-year-old blonde, Hallie Westbridge, awaited her as she swept the floor. Hallie looked up from her work as she eyed her cousin and asked, "Is she asleep?" She dropped off to dreamland as soon as she hit the pillow, Louise told her with a smile. "One question," Hallie prompted. "How are you going to keep me from finding, Well, the more workers I have, the better chance I have of keeping my secret," Louise replied, just as she heard running footsteps in the dust. She turned to see a red-haired young boy running toward her. "Miss Louise!" he called as he ran toward the feed shop, stopping short as he approached the duo of girls. "Christian," Louise realized. "Something wrong?" "You could say that," Christian replied. "Allie, she's been arrested." "Arrested?" Louise repeated. On what charge? Being the leader in a poker game, Christian told her. Elsa, Louise muttered. How many guards are on duty? One, Christian replied. And this one seems more competent than the rest. All right, Louise said. I'll take care of it. She turned to her cousin and said, Allie, you make certain that our new friend has some work to do tomorrow. I'll see if I can spring Allie from the prison. Thanks, Louise, Christian told her, and then ran off into the small town. Allie sat on the cot, having given up on her attempts to escape, and watched the pigtailed girl who was her cellmate sleep soundly. How that girl can sleep on such a hard cot is beyond me, Allie thought to herself. She sighed. At this rate, I'll be old and frail before I get out of here. Just then she heard the bars clang from outside and tiptoed towards a smaller barred window where she saw a dark-haired woman in a white bonnet and a blue dress. Louise, Allie murmured, I knew you'd come. Considering one of my friends was jailed unlawfully, of course I'd come, Louise replied with a smile. Have you found a way to get me out of here? Allie asked. I hope so, Louise told her. Then she slipped a bandana through the barred window. Put that around your nose and mouth. Picking up the bandana, Allie did as she was told, while Louise reached into her bag and withdrew a small glass vial. She passed it to Allie and asked, How's your throwing arm? Good, I guess, Allie told her. Toss that vial toward the guard's desk, Louise instructed. Then I'll get his keys. Allie nodded as Louise slipped out of sight, and then looked through the barred door to ensure that no one but the guard was near the front door. Then she stuck her arm through the bars and tossed the vial. The vial broke on contact with the floor and released an odd gas that caused the guard to cough violently before passing out on the desk in a deep sleep. Wearing the same white bandana to protect her nose and mouth, Louise entered the jailhouse and told no one in particular, Don't mind me, just passing through. She searched the sleeping guard for his keys and finally found them secured to his belt. She lifted them off his belt and approached the cell where Allie was being held. Then she inserted the key into the lock and twisted it, while Allie asked, What the heck was that stuff? A little sleeping draft I've been working on, Louise replied. It affects those who succumb to it for about 2 hours. When Louise managed to unlock the barred door, Allie stepped out and gave her a hug before she went back inside and picked up the pigtailed girl, throwing her over her shoulder. Ready to go? Louise asked. Now I am, Allie replied. While carrying pigtails, she followed her friend out of the jailhouse and back toward the feed shop. So as you can see, there's a little secret of something about Louise that she's trying to keep secret, and she was able to spring the newest prisoner from the jailhouse, who happens to be one of her best friends, named Allie. Let's continue. Okay, this is a scene where Mitzelena Zichter is discovered, and Elsa Pollock confronts her about following her wherever she goes. Ms. Zichter basically convinces Elsa to use her shadow rays to conquer not just Mount Millennia Village, but the entire countryside. Stupid squid wraiths, Mitzi realized as she hid inside a rain barrel to avoid being seen by Elsa. It's just like Elsa would use the power of that relic. She stared at the outside town through a small hole within the barrel. At least there's nobody around right now. However, she was met with a glowing eye of red a moment later and realized, whoops, spoke too soon. With that, she leaped out of the barrel and used her wings to propel herself into the air, taunting the wraith with, "Now try to get me, you shadow sushi!" Just then, the squid wraith was joined by 3 others, causing Mitzi to realize, "Something tells me I'd better duck." But she was too late with her thought, as the squid wraiths shot their tentacles toward her, with 2 of them wrapped around her wrists and 2 more around her ankles. "Hey!" Mitzi just exclaimed as she was pulled toward the ground. As she crashed, the squid wraiths surrounded her as she ordered, "Let it go!" But just then, Elsa Pollock pushed past the squid wraiths and eyed their catch. Well, she taunted. "I set my trap for an intruder, and I capture a fugitive. I guess there's no fooling you," Mitzi mocked her. "Quiet!" Elsa ordered. "What were you doing following me?" "I wish to join you in conquering this village," Mitzi replied. "I could be very useful in your army." Elsa scoffed at her. "I don't need someone like you telling me I need help," she told her. I'm doing just fine on my own, thank you very much." "But think about what you're doing," Mitzi explained. "Why limit yourself to just one town? The whole world is waiting for you to take a bite out of it." "Why should I listen to you?" Elsa demanded. "Because I can give you the resources for a full-scale assault on a grand scale," Mitzi told her. "Not just Mount Melania Village would be yours, but so would the entire continent." Elsa murmured. "And then you could give herself a new name, like Queen Elsa the First," Mitzi went on. "Think about it." "Queen Elsa the First," Elsa murmured. "I like the sound of that." Then she snapped her fingers and ordered the squid wraiths, "Release her!" With that, the tentacles unwrapped from around Mitzi's wrists and ankles, and Elsa reached for the other woman's hand, pulling her to her feet. "Now, tell me more about this, what did you call it? Full-scale assault?" Elsa prompted as the squid wraiths vanished. "Well, the first thing you need to do is summon more squid wraiths," Mitzi advised. "You'll never instill fear with only 3 or 4. Try something like 40 or so." "40?" Elsa exclaimed. "Or maybe 60, Mitzi went on. "Don't be sparing." "But," Elsa began. "No, but!"